After a tough go of injuries last year in juniors, Sam Honzek has now been listed as week to week with an upper body injury.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jess, and thank you so much for joining me. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Today, we're going to be talking about the latest on Sam Honzek being out, who's slotting back in, who's moving up, and many more updates from practice today out in Canmore, and some goalie news, as well as how the Flames handle things internally. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. So right before practice today, the Flames put out a tweet and a press release to the media saying, hey, Sam Honzek is week to week, or he's considered week to week with an upper body injury. And this comes after a reverse hit on one of the Chicago Blackhawks player the other night. So, I mean, like, it makes sense, unfortunately, and you're better off taking extra precaution, especially with a 9-game trial, and it is a very long season ahead. So you have to be very careful and methodical when it comes to any sort of transactions and injuries and precaution. This is so tough. I know people jokingly say, oh, like, you hate to see it, but no, like, this is something you truly hate to see, because Sam Honzek, like I mentioned at the top of the show, he had a really tough go of injuries last year, and even prior to that, where it kind of impacted him, and obviously his development time and his playing time. So for it to happen now, like again now, like right as he's like picking up steam, it stinks. And I don't think that it's, I don't think it's fair to call players injury prone, because it's not like, I don't know. It's not like, it's a conscious effort. You can like, you can't necessarily avoid these things. We've seen players throw big hits and not get injured, and we've seen players throw the same hit and get injured. So it's not a matter of necessarily execution or anything like that. So I do wish him the best. I hope that he's resting up, and I'm sure Martin Pospisil has plenty of tips and tricks for him to make the most of his time off and what he can do to get through it. And we know the team takes care of their players, and this isn't something where I'm like, oh my God, like, shut him down for the season. Week to week is a little daunting, but week to week could be 2 weeks. You never know. So with that, Coronato does slide up to the top line with Kadri and Kuzmenko. So you have Ryan Huska coming off of the game on Tuesday saying how he wants to and how he has the ability to play Coronato more and kind of wherever in the lineup, because he is playing so well. This is another one of those situations where, is this opportunity coming with Honzek's injury, or would this, like, could this have been arranged a different way? And like, you have to make the most of what your situation is. You make lemonade out of lemons, and the Flames are notoriously very good at that. And with another opening on the fourth line, Adam Klapka does return. I really like him on that fourth line. I know we only saw it once, but I'm sorry, twice. No, once. I lied. I'm sorry. Just once. He's big. and we talked about it yesterday, but that fourth line is a different type of relentless, and it's a different type of fourth line and physicality than what traditional fourth lines are. And I think Adam Klapka feeds into that, and he fits in really well. And I personally, at least based on what I saw, I thought that he fit in better with that approach rather than Matt Coronato. Matt Coronato did an excellent job. I will say he did fit in. He got acclimated, made himself at home, but I feel like Klapka just fits that a little bit better. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this works and what the lines look like and how they start kind of taking form. And then you're going to have to remember that Sharon Govich is going to have to come back at some time too. So you're playing with a lot, like there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen right now, and some, like, you just have to be careful and thoughtful with all of your decision making. And that's hard. That's why I'm glad none of us made those decisions. I'm assuming no executive is listening to this podcast. But what's his name? Gabe Landeskog listens to Locked On Colorado Avalanche, which I think is bonkers. That was in the Amazon Prime documentary. That was crazy. That was a moment. But yeah, so Kevin Rooney is also skating again in a non-contact jersey. He is back from a concussion that he suffered in the first game against Vancouver. And it looks like Dan Vladar will get the start against the Seattle Kraken. This is something we're going to talk about coming up next. The goaltending. What is this? What we thought was going to happen? Did you ever think they would carry 3 goaltenders? How do they continue down the rest of the season and, the long road ahead? And we'll wrap up the show with kind of some more like psyche talk, I guess, more like how the Flames are handling this successful start. And we will be right back after this. All right, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I think you should go place a future bet for Dustin Wolf winning the Calder, maybe the Flames making the playoffs. How about you set up a parlay for Saturday's game against the Kraken? Let's do it. And you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet on FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto. Goaltending is always such like a finicky position. And it's hard. Like, it feels very black and white when you're looking at how to analyze a goaltender. Are they stopping pucks or not? And I think it does obviously come down to that, but there are other factors, and multiple things can be true at once. I think that every other game seems to be working pretty well. It's only been 4 games, so there obviously isn't much of a sample size, but I think this is the way to go. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I think Vladar is settling in. First night against Vancouver was not good. I shouldn't even say the first night. It was the first period. The first period was horrendous. That's fine. In an 82-game season, after, your season ended in February or March, late spring because you needed hip surgery, I don't expect you to come out and put on a Vezina performance your first game in like 8 months. So I think the game in Edmonton was, another another good game. Okay. Was he bailed out? Yes. Did that goalie interference call go way further in his favor? Probably. But he was able to, stay level-headed, stay even-keeled, and continue throughout the game. And he only allowed in 1 goal. He walked away with a .962 save percentage, which to me, for how that game went, that feels fantastic. And that is a great save percentage, obviously, but it did not necessarily feel like it was going to end like that. But with Dustin Wolf truly like easing his way into a starter role, he needs Dan Vladar to continue to do well. I don't necessarily think the Flames are going to rush to make Dustin Wolf in every game starter situation. Like, he's not going to be thrown to the wolves and be like, here, now you have a Connor Hellebuck style, like, heavy workload. That's not how the Flames are going to do this. I would say they're going to continue the every other game until there comes a point where they might not be able to. And could that point be sooner rather than later? I don't know. Would it make sense to try to start Dustin Wolf 2 games in a row at some point? Yeah, absolutely. There is nothing to lose here. The realistic goal here is, we know this team likely isn't making the playoffs just because of how things, if they keep this up, obviously they'll make the playoffs, but I think realistically it's not possible for them to kind of keep up this momentum, and things are going to happen, obviously, but the goal isn't to make the playoffs. The goal, or the predictions, the projected outcome for this year was to be a draft lottery team. And I think that that's fine. Like, the organization isn't in a spot like, let's say, the Ducks or the Blue Jackets, or the Sharks even, where they need to be making progress towards making the playoffs. Like, if they don't make the playoffs, then their rebuild has been a waste. Like, we've wasted all this time. Like, what are we doing? The Flames aren't in that position. The Flames are still in the very early phases of a rebuild. And I still know people don't really like that word, but that's what they're in, or attempting to do, I should say. I do think that Dustin Wolf is capable of being a full-time NHL goaltender. I was reading something today that very clearly expressed that they've never watched Dustin Wolf outside. I don't even know if at the NHL level is an acceptable answer, but also just period. They were very ignorant to who he is as a goaltender, and I don't really care about your analysis at that point. Especially, like, if this is your full-time job. If you just want to sit there and dog on goalies, and especially, like, a new guy, I don't know what you get out of this. I don't. But I think with the Flames, you're going to face the adversity at one point or another. Could they get off to a hot start and make the playoffs? Maybe. Is this going to be a dialogue and a narrative and a storyline to follow? Yeah, it is. Do I think that this goaltending tandem is enough to carry them through a playoff series? As of right now, no. I don't think either of them have nearly enough NHL experience to win a playoff series. But like, we don't even need to worry about that because that's like 6 months down the line, should something like that even arise. But I do think the Flames are going to be cautious with the workload of both. I almost said Markstrom. Nope. Vladar and Dustin Wolf. I think that they saw what a 63 season start did to Jacob Markstrom and how he did take a little bit to recover from that. But then also, why would you just rush your franchise goaltender into that position when your team is not ready to compete? Don't think that's necessarily the brightest idea. But coming up next, we are going to wrap up the show with how this team handles keeping everything internal and not focusing on the outside noise. And we will be right back after this. If you are like me, you absolutely love going to live events. I used Gametime to go to the Battle of Alberta in Edmonton last weekend. They were my one-stop shop. I used Gametime picks to filter out all of the fluff and get me the best seats at the best price. I would not have been able to attend this game for the cost of these tickets in this section on any other ticketing service. Gametime has this awesome feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. It doesn't just have to be hockey games. Gametime Picks filters out all the fluff and gets you incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching. I will be using Gametime again when I go out to Calgary later this winter, early spring, so I can go see the Maple Leafs at the Saddle Dome, because that's not necessarily something I want to joke around with. I have full faith in Gametime finding me seats for the price that I want with a good view. And you can get the panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy your tickets, just for that second set of eyes and reassurance. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. Sorry. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. And of course, I want to talk to you all about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the place to get real money on sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just need to pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct pick. PrizePicks puts its members first, so withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts different player projections up to 25% to provide even more value in your lineups. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 off of your $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Run your game at PrizePicks. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. For the Flames, I think one thing that they do really well is they don't feed into things necessarily. They are in a Canadian market, but not one like Toronto, where there's constant media scrutiny coming at you from every angle, on top of vitriol from online fans and whatever else is going on in the locker room. Or it's not Edmonton or Colorado, where you have reporters being like purposely snarky with you. The Flames have a decent sized like beat in terms of credentialed writers and reporters. They're around every day. But other than Eric Francis, I feel like no one is an instigator. And being an instigator in the world of journalism can be a good thing, because sometimes you really do have to ask the hard questions. But you don't need to like imply that like a player's lazy because they played video games during the summer. Or there was something a few years ago about one of the Rangers, Lafreniere. He played softball during the summer. So he like wasn't taking his training seriously and conditioning seriously, and like all that, like people called him lazy. But I don't know about you guys, but playing sports outside in the summer is the exact opposite of something a lazy person would do. But anyways, I digress. The media is very particular, and that's not a bad thing, because I think, every market is going to have someone that's, going to stir the pot, someone that's going to ask those uncomfortable and like unnecessary questions. And no one's saying you can't criticize the team or anything like that, but there's a lot less like local noise for the Flames. And I think it does come on like a more national level, but it doesn't necessarily find its way to the game. And Mackenzie Weegar and Ryan Huska both have really made a point to emphasize that the Flames don't care about what anyone else is saying. They're not listening. Quite frankly, they're not paying attention. And it's what's happening internally and what's being said within the room and those four walls is what matters most. It does not matter if Locked On Flames thinks that your power play is trash. They do not care. And while there's the negativity to it too, they're also not feeding into the positive of it, where I'm talking about how great of a start the season's off to. Like, they don't, like, regardless of who it is, what outlet, anything like that, it does not matter, because it is not coming from someone within the room that is valued, that has the expertise, that is around this in this situation every single day professionally, and like as a teammate or a coach. Not like it's the media's job to just stir the pot and to uncover their stories. And yes, it's not always an easy job, but I think it's good on the Flames, especially being in a Canadian market, being able to quiet everything and really just, they say that they just care about what's going on in the room. And I think that is fully true. Last season, Craig Conroy did a few interviews around the trade deadline. He didn't hold his cards. as close to his chest as he should have, probably. And I think that in those situations, no one really benefits within the organization when you're talking on podcasts, when you're going to the Jeff Merrick show, when you're calling into 32 Thoughts or whatever the case may be. It's great if, there's good news that you want to share, but it does not need to be out there like your play-by-play on how you plan on approaching the season. And the Flames have translated all of that into good ice play. And it's tough. It's not easy because I don't know about you guys, but I love hearing what other people have to say. I am nosy. I am observant. I am in there like swimwear. I want to know everything. And that's what makes these guys different, is like they can put those blinders on and go about their practice, go about their routines, go about their regimen, and go about their game and their lives and play and only listen and take in the noise from people that matter. They could listen to this podcast and be like, okay, yeah, whatever. I listen to this while I clean, so I just have some background noise. Like, I'm just using that as an example. I don't think anyone actually listens to this. But they only take feedback from where and who it matters. And I think that's important. And I think that's a good mentality to kind of keep throughout the season and really throughout the franchise moving forward, because you don't want to be in a situation where your general manager is like calling you out or calling out a certain media member because you said something on a podcast or you insinuated to them that a deal was happening, or, they weren't communicating, like the Jeremy Swayman situation between Don Sweeney, Spit and Chicklets, and Swayman's agent, like Cam Neely. Like, you don't want any of that. That does not need to happen under any circumstance. So the Flames are doing a good job, and that's what matters. And I think they're going to continue down that path as well. And I hope that we do see the fruits of their labor come to fruition sooner rather than later. And that'll do it for me on this Thursday edition of Locked On Flames. Thank you all so much for tuning in and making Locked On Flames part of your busy day. You can find the show wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your Calgary Flames every day. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.